Alright everyone, welcome to 5 Minutes with a Girevik. Let me get out of the sun here. And now I had a Girevik that came to me in good old Texas from the great state of New York via the great state of Wisconsin. So I got Miss Heidi Toy in the house, actually in the car, because it's hot outside in Houston and we didn't want to do this outside because it's just nasty. But anyhow, Heidi, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing great. So Heidi and I connected while she was out here for business, but just to show you how dedicated Heidi is, she called me up because she needed a kettlebell, because she needed to train, because Heidi has a mission and a goal, and she's sticking to it. So people, I always say no excuses. If you're focused, and I just posted this on Facebook the other day, basically when it comes down to training and even in business, in order to be successful, you have to be obsessed. Okay? And there's nothing wrong with obsession. It's just something about some type of religious type guilt that we have that tells us that obsession is bad. But you know what? Most of the top people in the world, the reason why they're at the top is because they were obsessed. A little obsessed. Give a little room, you know, to let some other things sleep in. But other than that, you have to be obsessed about it. And Heidi, I think you're obsessed as much as we are. So tell us how you got into Kettlebell Sport, good old GS.
I moved to New York, I guess, about 5-6 years ago, and when I moved there, I was coming from Seattle, and Seattle is triathlete land, and I trained for triathlons there. I wasn't a great triathlete, but I was an okay triathlete. And I loved the training, and I didn't want to swim in the Hudson River because you have to open water swim when you train triathlons. And so I started training with an ex-Marine, and he was into hardstyle kettlebells, and he got me started. And then I just loved this. So this was 2006, and I loved it. And so I started researching online, trying to find out everything I could about this. And I came across Mike Mahler, and I started following Mike Mahler for a couple years, and then I went to a Mike Mahler certification in New York. And I met John Wild Buckley and Nazo, and John Wild Buckley looked at me and said, "You should compete." And so I thought, okay, what do you do to compete? And I had no idea. I was clueless. And then Nazo and I started training together. And shortly after that, then I hurt my arm doing a strongman, overzealous strongman workout. Nothing to do with GS, just training and hitting a tire with a sledgehammer hurt my arm, and it took me out of training for GS for about a year.
Ow.
So that's how I got started, and that's how I ended it quickly, not knowing if I was going to be able to go back into training for GS.
So what got you back after the road to recovery?
Well, I was training, then I signed up with training with Mike Mahler, and he was writing my online programs using kettlebells, again, more hard style, and I couldn't even pick up a can of Coke. I had to belt my arm. Tendons and ligaments on both sides of the elbow were torn, and the doctor basically said, if you could not use your arm at all, don't open car doors, don't pick things up, don't open the oven, nothing, just incapacitate the arm. You'll be fine. So Mike Mahler started told me I was a real pain in the ass client, and he told me that I needed to start doing Hindus because we didn't want to lose my strength or my endurance that we'd built up. So started doing tons of Hindu squats. In fact, I would do somewhere around 640 squats in a workout.
Man.
And
I think I remember seeing some of your posts about those and how, I can see where that came from. Now it makes sense.
and I quit my gym membership because there was nothing really there I could do. I could do squats in my apartment, and I used to yell out, "Mike Mahler!"
You know Mike's going to have a joke for that, right, when he sees this?
Well, I tell him that it's my neighbors either thought I was killing somebody named Mike Mahler or I was having something with Mike Mahler.
A great time with Mike Mahler.
Yes.
Oh, yes. Just feed his ego a little bit more right there.
That's right. So, and then I graduated to using a dive belt to actually do squats and putting weights in the dive belt because I could lean over and pull the dive belt on and then hold it and buckle it up. So this went on for about 6 months actually, and it built my, again, cardio endurance, and it built my strength, and I would also do running. But I lost upper body strength, which Mike basically said, don't worry, you're going to get that back.
Right.
And then To be honest with you, with the obsession, I guess at this point in time I'm passionate, and I guess I am obsessed, but I was disenchanted for a while with GS, and I felt like, do you want to know?
Yes, like what brought you back? Like
what?
A lot of us get that feeling, even not just in GS, but in other sports where you just work so hard, but then when things just seem like they're not going the way that you plan, because we have this, especially here in the West, we have this problem of being attached to an idea.
Yes.
Without really having a real plan for it, or even just having these high expectations, and we kind of set ourselves up to fail. So what was it that kind of like brought you back after just being disenchanted? Because yeah, we've all been there, even with our jobs, families, relationships, marriages, whatever. So what brought you back to reality?
I went to out to LA for the ICSFA certification, a week and a half ICSFA certification that they had, along with the charity that Jason Dobie was running.
Right.
And I didn't compete, or no, I guess it wouldn't be compete, but I didn't donate my time to the competition or the charity event. I wasn't in shape for it. Mm-hmm. But I did the 2-day cert with ICSFA.
And that's the IKSFA, Sergey
Yes.
Rudnev and Sergey Rudnev.
Yes.
And Alex.
And Alex. And it was like an aha moment, I guess, because one thing that from my other GS training that I had experienced was, and I would voice this to other people, is I always was wondering from my triathlon days is, where did the cardio endurance and the whole being a well-rounded athlete part go? Mm-hmm. Because that's part of the disenchantment was I wasn't getting it, and I thought because I was supposed to be this bigger, stronger girl that I should just be able to pick up a heavy bell and just do 10-minute sets and just lay them out, and I couldn't.
Right.
And I guess what I got a passion and obsession from them because I learned from them that it was technique first, intensity, and then you'll get volume.
Right.
And I don't know if they would use those words to describe it, but that's kind of what I had gleaned. And all of a sudden, again, it wasn't like, oh, great, now after 2 days I was a great, lifter. It was just that, like, the light bulb went on.
Right.
And then I had approached Sergey Rudnev about actually going to see him in Siberia and training with him. And the opportunity presented itself. At first I started training with him online, and then I ended up going myself to Siberia, and the passion just kept growing because, again, not that I'm this great lifter now, but I can see where my skill set has grown, my endurance has grown. And when I first started training with him in December, the beginning of December, end of November 2010, I could hardly finish a 10-minute set with a 12-kilogram bell. I just didn't have the technique. I was using the wrong breathing. I was using too many of my back muscles.
Right.
I was doing work when I shouldn't. I should have been letting gravity carry the bell instead of myself. And so the fatigue was there. In fact, I remember my heart rate was, after a 10-minute set, was 220 beats per minute.
That's called death in the medical field. I'm sure that would be death.
Yes. And actually, when Coach Rudnev, I shouldn't call him Sergey Rudnev just so loosely, Coach Rudnev found that out, he kind of laughed at me. But it quickly changed. The dynamic changed. And again, could I go out and run? Yeah, I could go out and run. But it was just that I was using, again, the wrong muscles.
Right.
And I was working against myself. And so as time evolved and as I picked up the bell, and that, I guess, is another thing, too, is that from the disenchantment, I didn't spend time under the bell. And,
yes, I totally feel you on that
you can run around, and actually I've heard Mike Mahler say this many times, is that you just have to start doing it. And I guess, that's like, duh, but I was running around to all these certs, getting certified, IKFF, WKC, AKC, did some other stuff with Dennis Kanjan, just
right.
doing all these certs, and not that one is better or worse than the other and not putting them down. It was just that once I started actually working with Coach Rudnev, I was actually on the line to do the work,
right,
and to make this happen. And so I was spending 4 days a week training, and it was starting to come together. I was putting the time in, and I started becoming obsessed.